So Louisa, R06 results got released a day early. So this is quite fitting for the questions I've got for you today. Guests on the podcast, listeners often ask me how to pass individual RO exams. So today, I just want to know a little bit about the RO exam. What's that all about?
The R06 exam really for most candidates is the culmination of R01 to R05. So they've sat and passed those 5 exams. R06 is the one where they can demonstrate and they can apply the knowledge and the learning from those previous 5, because it's not multi-choice or multi-response. It's historically written and currently a typed exam. So you've got to analyse client scenarios and effectively demonstrate, Sam, the advice planning process, starting from introducing yourself, fact-finding, analysing, making recommendations and reviewing. That's what the R06 is all about testing you on.
Okay, cool. So how is that actually structured then? How's that exam or qualification structured?
It's based on 2 case studies that are released usually about 2.5 weeks before the actual exam sitting date. So the CII issue those case studies. Everybody sitting the exam gets them. And generally, you tend to have one case study that's a bit younger, usually with dependents, and it's usually dependent young kids. And the other case study tends to be an older couple or an older individual, perhaps approaching retirement, in retirement. So we always get 2 case studies similar to those sorts of scenarios, because it allows the R06 examiner to test you on different needs. So a young couple, they could test you on mortgage needs, on family protection, on planning for retirement, on debts, on loans. Whereas an older couple or an older individual, it's less about planning for, it's more in retirement. What options have I got? Do I buy an annuity? Do I go into drawdown? But an older couple as well, Sam, are going to be more interested in inheritance tax planning, possibly more on investments, savings, tax efficiency, and even pushing into areas like long-term care and powers of attorney. So 2 case studies, 2.5 weeks before, tend to be in that style. What they don't release, of course, is they're not going to tell you what the questions are. So you've got to get under the skin of those case studies and do lots of practice. But that's what R06 is based on.
And what would you say would be the best approach to getting a first-time pass?
Best approach tends to consist of 3 prongs. And the first one is you absolutely get and you work through a study guide. Now, R06 is an exam where, unfortunately, you have no choice but to purchase an examining body package. So you're going to have to buy the CII's R06 guide. Personally, with our candidates, they buy and they work through the BTS R06 guide because it's designed in a different way. That guide starts you off looking at the techniques of answering the questions. Because this, Sam, is an exam where you could write War and Peace. And like looking at you, I'm sure you could write War and Peace, actually. And it's not how much you write, it's have you answered the question? Have you written it in the right technique fashion? So the study guide, the BTS study guide starts you off on that. It's full of practice case studies, practice questions that teaches you and then gets you practicing those techniques. So we always start our candidates off with the BTS R06 guide. From there, do as many past papers as you can. CII, and they're out there for public consumption. We're not breaching anybody's intellectual property. Exam guides give you previous exams, previous questions, and CII suggested answers. So what we say to our candidates, once you've gone through the guide, sit and self-mark at least one of those past exams yourself. The more the merrier. Because you'll see looking at those, Sam, that the same sorts of questions tend to come up. So you're always going to have a fact-finding question. You're always going to have a recommendation question. You're always going to have a review question. So the more of those you can sit and get your head into the R06 examiner's head, yeah, the absolute better. So that's your second prong. Your third prong is get yourself ideally on a workshop. And that's a workshop where somebody like us has looked at the case studies, has produced a brand new course every sitting, and in a group with us, we look at some of the questions and look at the possible answers. And that's an amazing help, because the one thing a pass isn't about is just learning questions and answers, because nobody ultimately exactly knows what questions are going to be asked, and they don't know the wording that the CII are going to use. So coming along on a workshop with X number of your peers, you learn off of each other. You form little study groups from that workshop. So it helps enormously. So 3 prongs: BTS guide, do past exam papers and self-mark them, come along on a workshop. And that is the approach we use with our clients, and that gives us the best possible results. Now, let me get it out there. Not everybody passes first time, because the answers aren't in front of you. This is a completely different style of exam, and it can take, yeah, a couple of goes to get through it, but we get our best results using that approach.
So how often can the exams be sat?
This is one of the other differences, because R01 to R05, you can literally, most weeks, sit that 7 days a week, especially now we've got remote invigilation. I have people contacting me on LinkedIn on a Saturday or a Sunday going, yay, I passed me R05, I passed me R01, R06 4 times a year. So January, April, July, and October. So you have fixed points in time, and everybody sits their exam on the same date, and everybody has the same questions. Because with the other exams, I could be sat next to you in an exam centre doing R01, and your 100 questions could be totally different to mine. Very different with the R06 exam. 4 times a year, everybody gets the same questions. But I think that's one of the things as well, Sam, that puts candidates under pressure, because you can't sit it every week. And if you don't get it first time, if you do it on a bit of a wing and a prayer, well, you've got to wait, 3-4 months. So yeah, 4 times a year.
Great stuff, Luiza. Thanks for that. Some great tips.